Okay, so I know that a fair amount of new people are starting to listen. So this is what I called a bonus episode. I was doing them every Friday. Basically, I would hit up different comedians that I knew personally or that I knew through the grapevine that were obviously not famous, because famous people wouldn't talk to me. And it was just becoming a hassle, and it was becoming a headache, and trying to get in contact with comics and getting comics to respond was just getting on my nerves. So I just stopped doing it. But Joshua Jackson responded kind of late in the game, and so he sent me a clip of one of his worst bombs ever. First off, Josh, I listened to it, and I don't know if you know this, you sound like Will Smith. Like, no bullshit, you sound like the Fresh Prince, like Baby Smith, when he was wearing Kango hats and needlessly colorful 90s clothes that were too big. Like, for real, when you listen, if whoever listens to this, when you listen to this episode, when you listen to Joshua Jackson talk, bring up a picture of young Will Smith and then look at the picture while you're listening to him talk. It's fucking eerie. Regardless, this guy is a comedian. I've known him. I think he's very funny. And one of the reasons why I liked doing the bonus episodes was because it gave people a chance to hear comedians at my level, a little bit above, a little bit below. I get to hear their perspective on things, and I don't think it's something that the audience hears very often, the perspective of a comedian that's not famous or successful. No offense, Josh, but you know where we're at this point. So I would definitely like to do more of these if people are interested in it, if there's a desire to hear it. But if there's not, then I'm not going to put the work in to do it. So email thebuddysystemco@gmail.com if you do want to see more bonus episodes or hear more bonus episodes. All that being said, this is Joshua Jackson. Thanks for doing this again, man.
My worst bomb ever. So I was probably about 2, maybe 3 years into doing comedy at this point. And I was having trouble getting booked on shows. So I saw a Facebook post for a show that was a local show that wasn't too far from my house. It was, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let me go. I'll meet the booker, talk to him, see if I can get a spot on the show, on a future show, maybe try to build that relationship. Went to the show, and a lot of local comedians that I knew were at the show. So I was like, oh man, this is like a little get together, a little kicking session. So went around saying hi to everybody, ended up meeting the booker. Introduced myself. I was like, hey, I'm a local comic. I like what you're doing. It's a great venue. If you ever have an opening, let me know. I would love to be on the show. So he was like, all right, bet. It's nice to meet you. Definitely be in touch. So after that, I figure I've done my due diligence. Let me get something to drink. So I went and got a couple beers. And let me also add that when it comes to drinking, I'm what you call a punk ass or a lightweight. I like to drink on occasion. I don't drink a lot. I'm not a drunk. But when I do drink, it doesn't take me much to get fucked up. Yeah, I had a couple beers. I'm feeling myself, feeling kind of good, having a good time. Our show gets ready to start. I'm just chilling with some of the comedians. We having a good time, laughing, talking trash or whatever. And the booker comes over to me, and he was like, hey, somebody backed out the show. You want to do 10 minutes? Now, normally I do not drink. I make it a rule. I do not drink. I try to treat comedy like a job. I wouldn't go to my job fucked up. Like I wouldn't go to my job inebriated or whatever you want to call it. So I don't do comedy shows that way. And then a lot of comedians use drugs as a way to build the courage up to get on the stage. And I never wanted that. I never wanted a crutch. So when I first started doing comedy, I would just fight through the fear. So anyways, guy hit me up and my mind was like, no, don't do it. Don't you dare. You do this, you're not going to do a good job. That was the common sense part of me. That was my mind. But that comedic voice inside of me was like, fuck it, let's do it. We going to kill it. At that point, I was on a streak. We comedians sometimes talk about having streaks, streaks of going without bombs. And I was on a pretty good streak. You know, I'd done a few shows, had some pretty good responses. So I was feeling myself. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do it. You know, hadn't rehearsed, hadn't prepared. So I was like, yeah, let's go. So the show opens up and I'm the first comedian up. At this point, me and the beer just aren't getting along. You know, like we just aren't friends right now. I'm telling my body to do one thing, and the beer is telling my body to do something else. I'm like, talk straight. The beer's like, nah, we gonna slur. So I get up there and draw a blank. I think for probably the first 10, maybe 15 seconds, I'm staring at the audience, looking at them like, what the hell you gonna do? The audience is staring at me, looking at me like, hey, what the hell you gonna do? Like, you're supposed to be telling us jokes. Then I realized, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be up here telling jokes. So then I go into my jokes. I forget my punchlines. My timing is off. Like, it was terrible. To make it even worse, there was a booker there that night for a show at the Ontario Improv. And this booker would, you know, occasionally book shows there. And I was like, yeah, I can go meet this booker. I did meet the booker before I went up. So typically, if you do a good job, you know, make people laugh, then bookers will hit you up and say, hey, you know, why don't you come do my show? You know, I'm bombing terribly, like bad, like, man, like if bombing was, let me think of a good analogy. If bombing was a location, I was there. Like, I was there early. I was the first one there. I was sitting in the front row. Yeah, it was all bad. So I didn't even finish my time. He gave me 10 minutes. I might have done like 6. It was so bad I had to excuse myself. Like, it's one thing to be bad and get escorted off or kicked off the stage. But to do so bad, you kick yourself off? Oh man, I was bombing. I was, as some say, eating shit. So I get off and I just hang my head low. I go sit down. I'm like, man, I went and apologized to the booker. I was like, hey, you know what? My bad. This is not what I told the booker. But me personally, I make it a rule that I never blame the audience. Like, if the audience doesn't laugh, it's not the audience's fault that I wasn't funny. It was my fault. Whether it be I was performing the wrong jokes for the wrong audience, maybe I didn't have the right energy, or maybe I was just off that night. But typically when people come to a comedy show and pay money, they're there because they want to laugh. So I make it a goal, you know, to make them laugh. Meet them where they are, some people call it. You know, I didn't meet them where they were that night. I met the alcohol where it was, but I did not meet the audience where it was. So yeah, like I said, after the show, I went over to the booker and I had to apologize. I was like, man, I'm sorry. Like, my bad, bro. He was real cool too. He was like, hey, don't even worry about it. Just come back next week. I'll give you some more time and, you know, just kill it then. That was the last, and I do mean the last time I drank before a show. Like, even if I'm going to support a show now, I do not drink. I gotta be clear and I have to be alert. So I bombed that night, but so did beer. So I guess it was kind of a double bomb. Like, I wasn't alone in that bomb. You know, I had help and my help was beer that night. And then shortly after, one of my mentors told me not to drink at shows because a lot of comedians get DUIs. And that was something I didn't know. Yeah, it's very easy to get a DUI. You know, you go to a show, get a couple beers, don't even realize it, and you might be slightly over the limit, but you feel good. Next thing you know, you can't drive for, 12 months to a year or whatever, 12 months, a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I never had a DUI. But you having to get in your car and blow into something. So that's my story.